So one thing that I've noticed as I started my adventure into learning about Wayfinder is the sheer amount of controversy surrounding the character system. I mean, not often in this day and age do you see MMOs without a character creator, and I can easily see how this turns people away from the game if it's actually done incorrectly. I mean, people, myself included, love to show off the armor they managed to farm or different customization options that they have unlocked along the way. This is where Wayfinder might end up being a little bit different than other MMOs you might know of. Though it's not confirmed just how many customization options will be available, what is confirmed is that Wayfinder is a hero-based MMO, and there are 6 currently in the works at the time of writing. I'd like to spend this video talking about the information we have on those 6 playable characters and their respective abilities to get a decent idea as to who you might want to play as before you jump into the game. I will say that after reading through the AMA that Airship Syndicate held on Reddit, it's important to highlight some of the features before we dive in. For example, one Redditor asked, will there be a ton of ways to augment character and weapon abilities, basically to see if everyone's build would be slightly different than each other, because I can completely see how you could be taken out of the game if there's 100 different of the same character running around. Airship Syndicate responded to this question, and I'll paraphrase here but feel free to pause and read, that they're introducing a system of echo socket alignments, which to me almost sounds like weapon mods of sorts or maybe armor mods, but basically equipping an echo will result in different stats and different ways of approaching situations. Continuing on to this, it sounds like there will be ability points used as well to unlock different abilities, and these will be limited as you won't be able to unlock everything, so you'll need to be a little bit strategic about how and what you want to unlock. Of course, there will be different weapon masteries and talents, they say, consumables, accessories, which accessories kind of sound a bit like armor, and also different dyes and styles. So hopefully lots of different ways to make yourself stand out. It's important to also note that Wayfinder doesn't have a traditional holy trinity that you may be used to, and that the roles of DPS, healer, and tank aren't necessarily assigned to a specific character, though it does sound like some characters may be better at some things than others, and you'll kind of hear about this when we talk about the different characters. But one last thing before we talk about those characters, that I want to say that all information that I read comes from either the Wayfinder wiki, the AMA, or other sources that are official. I'll include a link to all of that in the description in case you're curious. So let's get started with Wingrave. Wingrave is in short a close combat support specialist. He's described as being highly defensive and supportive, with some control and offensive abilities as well. He has a passive ability of Healing Pulse, in which melee finishers heal himself as well as a nearby ally. It's not really defined what a melee finisher is exactly, but I assume it's probably close to a last hit or maybe a special ability he does when an enemy is at low health. He also has 4 different usable abilities. Righteous Strike is defined as an attack that will hit the enemy in front of him and result in energy shooting out to heal both himself and his allies. Radiant Pulse is another ability in which he extends and forms a divine shield in front of himself. This will block attacks and projectiles, so I kind of think this is close to maybe like a Reinhardt shield. Judgment is an ability where Wingrave leaps into the air and highlights the enemies around him. This will essentially mark them so that any damage done to those enemies returns to the players in a way of health. His last ability is Divine Aegis, where Wingrave jumps up in the air, smashes down into the ground, and forms a shield. This shield will protect all of the players that are within it, in addition to actually healing them. Our next playable character is Silo. Silo is a more rounded character which allows him to fit both within the ranged and melee combat roles, and he's a good fit for those looking to be versatile. He has the passive ability of Strategic Advantage, which deals bonus damages to enemies that are debuffed. His usable abilities include one that's called Firebomb, which is a tossable bomb that deals damage over time, which I'm assuming comes in the way of fire damage, to a wide area in front of him. He also has an Oil Bomb, which serves as the same functionality as the Fire Bomb, but instead throws a sticky oil that slows enemies. The Oil Bomb also has a cool interaction with the Fire Bomb, where if a Fire Bomb is thrown on the Oil Bomb or detonating near it, a huge explosion will occur, damaging all the enemies within the area. His third ability is Radiant Clone, which leaves a holographic clone of Silo as a distraction and dashes him backwards in the process. This ability would be good if you're getting into the action and you want to quickly get away because you take too much damage or something like that. His last known ability is Ground Zero, which launches his companion EGG or Egg at the enemies, and it shocks an area in which it explodes, and it causes slowing and damage to those enemies. Moving on to our third announced character in the way of Niss. Niss is a roguish assassin character who is fast and deals a ton of damage. If you have a heavy focus on the DPS side of things, she might be the one for you. She has the passive ability of Lingering Shadow, where she gains attack power for a short time following her dodge. Her main abilities include Shadow Step, which is a forward dash damaging enemies along the way twice, one initially from her and another from her clone from behind. She also has Umbral Aura, an ability that grants her next 3 dodges to damage nearby enemies in her way. Her third ability comes in the way of Vengeful Shade, which is a big leap up in the air and the shooting of several daggers in front of her in a kind of a conical shape. And lastly, we have Gloom Shroud, which is an ultimate ability that allows her to use Shadow Step infinitely for the duration of the ability. So we're now halfway through the characters and we're focusing on Senja. Senja is said to lack in support abilities but excel in defensive, offensive, and control ones. It's important to note that she has a few unique features about her, including the Crowd's Favor system, which allows her to build up resources in combat and use them towards her passive Crowd Favorite. So a little bit confusing, but upon the buildup of enough Crowd's Favor, she gains additional weapon and ability power. And it's not really said what that power comes in terms of, if it's damage, speed, something along those lines, but she gains extra power in some regard. In order to build up Crowd's Favor in the first place though, she has the ability to Showboat by using both the Gladiator Pummel and Gain Favor abilities. The Gladiator Pummel ability are quick jabs and hooks depending on how long the ability is held down, so this is really just a punching ability. Gain Favor is essentially a taunting ability that focuses enemies on her, and this will build up Crowd's Favor over time as well. The last 2 abilities that she has are Lightning Grasp and Grand Finale. Lightning Grasp is a pulling ability, if you're familiar with those, basically yanks enemies towards her in a conical shape. And lastly is the ability of Grand Finale, where she charges forward and does damage to enemies in a range in front of her, and this will automatically max out her Crowd's Favor. In my opinion, Senja seems like a perfect choice for those who want to focus on tanking. So our last known Wayfinder comes in the way of Kyros. Kyros is another heavy offensive focused character, and like Senja, he has resources to spend in combat known as Arcane Fragments, though he's more focused on DPS than any of the tanking abilities. He also has no specific passive buff, as those Arcane Fragments will allow him to perform extra charges of Savage Rake. So you might be wondering what Savage Rake even is. It's basically a sweeping ability that claws the ground and does massive damage to anything in front of him. Siphon Radiant is another ability of his, and this ability allows him to siphon the energy of the enemies around him, and basically absorb that energy for use within the Arcane Fragments. Arcane Focus is his next ability, and similar to Wingrave, it marks the enemies around him with a sigil, and when one of these enemies are damaged, the sigil continues to build up, detonating when it reaches max power or when the duration ends. And his final ability is Shockwave. This ability allows him to leap into the air and do massive damage via a whirlwind to the area in front of him. Moving on to our final section, we don't have a lot of details admittedly about the last Wayfinder, but I'll throw kind of the information we do have on the screen now. We do know that the name is the Alchemist, but that's just about all the information we have. We don't know what her abilities are or anything like that. Instead, I'll use this section to also state that more characters are planning on being added, and that the devs are certainly listening to the community. So if you have a way of playing that doesn't align to any of the characters here, definitely make your voice known in the Discord or Reddit. They are definitely listening, and it seems like they are taking suggestions. But there have been talks about an additional healing hero coming to the game, and we don't know if this healing hero will be the Alchemist or be an additional hero in the future, and this will also be in addition to a character that focuses on using pets. Think possibly in this sense as a necromancer or hunter or a character like that. But rest assured, it sounds like they're trying to make sure every playstyle is covered. But wrapping up, that's all I have for this video. Let me know in the comments which character you plan on playing. I'm personally a healer at heart, so I might play as Wingrave or kind of hold out until I see what that additional healing character will be, but I could also see myself playing Niss as well. If you could leave a like and subscribe as well, that would be greatly appreciated, as I plan to post way more Wayfinder content in the coming months. But until the next one, I'll catch you guys later.